Hello, my name is Jordan Tynes. I am a member of the faculty in the Computer Science Department at Wellesley College. I am the director of the Media Arts and Sciences program, and I have been working with my colleague Brian Burns on developing a virtual reality experience based on a dig site, which you'll hear about in just a moment.
And I'm Brian Burns. I'm a professor of classical studies at Wellesley and co-director of the excavations at ancient Eleon in central Greece. Our project at Eleon has been excavating since 2011, and over the years we've incorporated lots of students in our work from Wellesley College and other institutions, and also we've been aiming to increase our new technologies in the ever-evolving techniques that we employ on site. Eleon is located in Boeotia, about an hour and a half north of Athens. Beginning in 2016, we pulled Jordan in to help our early weak attempts at some drone photography. And you can see one of our first projects was a digitization of this wall that stands along the eastern edge of the site. We also were excited to make digital copies, models of artifacts. And so here again is an early attempt at photogrammetry of a stone jewelry mold, which was one of the first things that inspired us to think about how do we take these objects that were meant to be manipulated with the hands, but which often are only known through two-dimensional illustrations or are locked away from touch in a museum case. And we explored modeling on various scales, from drone photography and modeling of the topography and the entire site, but then also focusing in on key contexts. So here's one of the first tombs that we modeled through photogrammetry. This is tomb 5, where you can see the architecture and also some of the human remains still in situ. The tombs are complex because of their multiple use in antiquity. Many people were deposited within the same small space, and sometimes those people were deposited with artifacts. Often artifacts were moved, removed, modified over time. But again, part of our project with the digitizing of objects and contexts is to put students and archaeologists and interested people in a position where they can understand where things came from.
Hello and welcome to Digital Eleon. I'm going to give you a quick tour of the current iteration of our VR software. This is the tutorial platform where you get to familiarize yourself with both the software and the project. You'll hear more about this work in progress that we have going on here in just a minute. This is our little tutorial area. There's, of course, the important controller information above and some sample objects that the guests can interact with. So I'm just going to reorient myself so I'm not running into my desk. And there's a couple different sizes here. You should recognize that one, of course, from this few slides ago. And when you select an object, the information about it is displayed here. In some objects, there's a little tech information about why. For instance, you may see something like this versus something like this. And this is represented here on our little interactive clipboard. We have a viewing area of the bluestone structure. This is just one portion of the dig site at Eleon. And here you can see the entire Acropolis and the dig activity going up in the sort of top northeast portion of this map. I can zoom in on that and you can see a finer detail of where you're sort of located here. I can zoom back out and recontextualize that if I want to. I can go over here to the edge and see where the tombs are. I can activate the labels for those tombs and a little indicator of where they are. And I can also do that. I can teleport down here to the edge of the bluestone structure. I can see all those labels down here as well. I can teleport freely around the bluestone structure. I can go back up to the top if I want to, back up to the tutorial area. But I can teleport over here. We set up these folding tables at various spots around the site, and all of these objects are also interactive. They're non-kinematic, so they don't fall, right? We can't throw them, for instance. And again, there's another interactive clipboard down here for viewing more information about this. This clipboard, I can take it over to, I will point out actually just really quickly that it says here, Dagger is from Tomb 5. So I could come over here, teleport to the edge of Tomb 5, and know that I'm here. And also, if we had included some information here for students or users, guests, etc., to learn more about this tomb. We will talk more about this tomb and why it kind of looks the way it does and why we chose this model over another in just a minute. And I will just show you that I can, of course, teleport back up here. Things are where I left them, so if I wanted to organize in a certain way, I could. And we'll come back and talk about a few of these features in just a moment.
So one of our goals with this whole project was to enable people to visit the site and to engage with the excavation as documented. A lot of ancient VR projects are about reconstruction of ancient sites and architecture. And our first goal was to really take advantage of the photorealistic imagery, the interactive element, and our pedagogical uses have really focused on archaeological technique and interpretation. So adding this platform is now our newest way to think about how to set people up to appreciate that experience. What kind of background information do they need, both technically and historically, to understand this set of tombs that date from about 3,600 years ago. So this is very distant, both geographically and in terms of time. And with the platform, we're just trying to start people off in an environment that might be more like a museum, more like a teaching space, but has this flexibility, the perspective over the site, both through the map and through looking down onto the trenches, but also a space where hopefully they feel in control.
We have two different styles of object here, and this one I'll just point out, right, would have the same sort of error with it, but we've patched it up. And when you select these objects, it explains that and why we made those decisions with this object versus this object. For someone who's maybe unfamiliar with the idea of scanning objects or even anything in relationship to it, like a sort of 3D experience, this is really useful for them to start sort of maybe explaining why, especially so when they get down here and we start looking at maybe Tomb 5.
So what we're looking at is perhaps not the most easy to understand visually. And as Jordan said, it's actually just because of the collection of photographs, it's not the best model we have. So we're debating all the time and with each individual tomb, what's the best data that we have recorded? What's the most effective for a viewer? The challenge with that other model that we have is that it's in the course of excavation and it has skeletal remains. And we try to be very conscious about how we are making use of both the data and of course images and the actual material of human remains.
If there's skeletal remains in there, just from my own perspective as someone who designs immersive experiences, that could potentially distract from what we want them to be focused on, which is not the burial material per se, but more so the cultural artifacts that were left with that burial material. So we're talking about our next steps in representing that material using these two walls.
Right. I was thinking that we might focus on a particular tomb. Again, just in a setting here on the platform where viewers could engage with a series of images rather than the manipulatable models. So tomb 10 is the one where we have the best preservation, both of 3 skeletons, which are largely in situ, in position as articulated bodies, as opposed to some of our other tombs where we have, because of the repetition of use, we have individual elements, that is to say isolated bones, which are sometimes piled or collected together in ways that again are distracting to a viewer, is something to come to terms with.
I'd like to highlight at this point, I think we both like to highlight at this point, this interdisciplinary nature of a project like this, where we go back and forth like this until we arrive at where we are today, which is getting closer to our goals, which is to have a rich pedagogical experience while being respectful to many of the other aspects that are important to this project.
And one of the ways we've been able to try out ideas beyond just the two of us is through engagement with our many colleagues and our students. So we will teach different kinds of students and our colleagues at Wellesley who make use of the VR experience so that we can have students who are taking an archaeological methods course or an ancient Greek course or computer science and media arts. We've plunk them all into this and see what they find most engaging, what they react to, and how they process the information. We've set it up in Greece with our excavation colleagues, people who know the site intimately through their own experience and their own professional work, and they get to try it in a different setting.
So I think maybe we'll leave it there, and that kind of opens up the opportunity for feedback. We always welcome new perspectives, which is why we're presenting it here today, or in a few weeks we'll be talking with you all. We're looking forward to that and hearing what you all think and about the latest version of Digital Eleon.